Hello and welcome to Rates and Ravings. My name is John from Room 100 and this is the first episode in a new series I'm starting, basically to replace my 4 minutes 4 reviews. With the release schedules of many things as they are right now, it's kind of too erratic to release reviews on a bi-weekly schedule, especially if I want to focus on new things coming out. Instead, Rates and Ravings will only happen once a month at the end of the month, and just let me discuss the most important things that I watched or played during that time. The first thing I want to talk about is something you've already seen pop up throughout my channel if you've been following me, whether it be through my live streams or in my Smash movesets, which is Hades. To give a very brief overview, and this will include spoilers, Hades is a roguelike action RPG by Supergiant Games where you play as Zagreus, the son of Hades, who is trying to escape the underworld. The gameplay is split between fighting through procedurally generated rooms and getting power-ups, and returning to the House of Hades to basically deepen your relationships, further the plot, and further enhance your abilities that will stay throughout your runs. This is my first Supergiant game that I've ever played. I've heard pretty good things about the other ones like Bastion and Transistor. I haven't really heard much about Pyre, but nothing really got me playing any of them up until Hades really exploded in the gaming community, and it seemed like it was basically everywhere I looked online. In terms of my experience with roguelikes, they're usually pretty hit or miss for making me continue to play them. Probably the most successful with me so far has been Risk of Rain 2. That game has the benefit of multiplayer, which I will just play any multiplayer game forever basically, but it is really enjoyable. There's lots of depth to customization and lots of fun enemies and combat, things like that. Whereas some other games that are still really good, like Binding of Isaac, I've dipped my toes into every once in a while, and it just never really quite grasps me the same way that some others do. Again, I do enjoy it, it's just not something that I consistently go back to. Hades, however, is definitely the best roguelike I've ever played, and I think that's because of how strong its two core parts are, being the gameplay and the story. The combat is really fun and fluid. It's that classic easy to pick up, difficult to master thing, moderately difficult to master anyway. The way Hades does that is, despite whatever weapon you might be using, there's a pretty small selection of attacks that you can use, not really like combos or anything you have to worry about. So instead, a lot of the fighting is revolving around movement. You have different enemies that each kind of require you to play differently in order to beat them, and you have to be aware of the different enemies on the field and know who you gotta take out first or who you can save for later, but maybe you just have to watch out because they're a ranged fighter, something like that. The bosses are fun and challenging. The upgrades do really make you feel like you're getting more powerful and more able to get farther and farther in the fight, and it's a pretty challenging game, which also makes you keep coming back to and wanting to break through farther and farther. I first beat Hades, as in your dad, the final boss Hades, and not the whole game Hades, somewhere in the mid-20s of my runs, and then I rolled credits, I think, at my 42nd run. So I kept playing not only because it was fun, but because I wasn't able to just stroll through it. I had to keep trying. The boon system really helps with that too, which is a great way not only to make yourself feel more powerful and try to find the different combination of boons, but also adds kind of a sense of discovery. I will say that around the time I rolled the credits and then the next couple runs after that, I did feel it was getting just a little bit stale, just purely in terms of the combat. It didn't feel like it was offering too much different, despite having a list of achievements to get, like different ways to beat the game using different weapons or finding all the boons, things like that, or unlocking the Pact of Punishment and the different ways that that can alter the gameplay. It was starting to get a little stale, but the story and the characters completely hold that up, and you really don't even think about it that much. The way this game mixes the gameplay and the story together and making them rely on each other is really, I think, brilliant. The characters are all really interesting, not only you as Zagreus and learning more about why he's doing what he's doing, but also all the other characters who have some skin in the game or are trying to find ways to help you, or just ways that they expand the world and the lore of this specific version of Greek mythology in general. And the dialogue and the voice acting only helps this. It's really natural. There's lots of fun and cute moments that just really endear you to a lot of these characters. The amount of dialogue that this game provides is really staggering. So there's a very few amount of times where I feel like I've gotten repeated dialogue, and it just makes everything feel so alive. And there's such an emphasis on each individual character's own story and their history, and there's lots of kind of little side quests where you can help people out. And I think at the end of the day, the whole game is about relationships. There's the main story between you and your dad and mom, and also the various relationships that you can enter with some of the other characters, but also there's Achilles and Patroclus and Orpheus and Eurydice. And I think the whole game is just about patching things up and basically confronting problems instead of hiding them away or running from them. And it's just nice. It's a really pleasant story no matter what characters you're focusing on. Some of my favorites to interact with are probably Meg, Nyx, Achilles, Hades, and Persephone once you roll credits. And then in terms of gods, I really like Artemis. It's just great, and again, I really can't undersell the genius of how they interweave the gameplay and the story. I think no matter how fast or slow you're moving through the game, it's designed so well that you're getting something out of it no matter what. When the gameplay starts to get stale, you keep going so that you can learn more about the story and the characters and deepen your relationships, and as you learn more about the story and the characters, it makes you want to keep playing and adds new things for you to do. It's a really great cyclical system that has made me play for a lot longer than I have other roguelikes. I'm not the first to recommend this game, and I certainly won't be the last, but I really think you should check it out and give it a shot. I would give it an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I think I'm gonna give it a 9 for now, and as I keep playing, we'll see if that drops to an 8.5, but this is a really good game. So Hades doesn't fully count as a January game for me. I think I started in late November or sometime in December, but I didn't roll credits until January, so I felt like now is the time to talk about it. And I also forgot to talk about it in my end of the year update video. So now let's talk about another game that I forgot in that update. In mid-December, I played the closed alpha for Back 4 Blood, a new zombie survival game from the original creators of the Left 4 Dead series. Now, I really enjoy the Left 4 Dead series, mostly Left 4 Dead 2, that's the one I've actually played a lot, but this is not it. This game has a lot of problems and uninspired choices that really kept me from getting pulled into it. First, let's focus on the visuals, which had some of my biggest problems when I was playing through. Oh, hold on. You see that? That's what it would be like if they gave you a flashlight, which they didn't for some reason because I can't see shit. The game can get as dark as the deepest pits of Tartarus, and they didn't decide to give you a flashlight for God knows what reason. Like, my apartment is not the brightest place in the world, and I was still struggling to see like half of the game. Everything is so dark and muddled, I could barely tell what was going on or what was important in the environment. I just really don't understand why they didn't make it brighter or give you a flashlight like in Left 4 Dead. It just feels like a massive oversight that really hurt the experience for me. On top of not being able to see anything, the new unique zombies designs are just really weak. They lack so much of the cartoonish personality that Left 4 Dead had. Like, you can tell some of the bigger ones apart from the crowd, like the tall guy, but for the most part, they're all just really uninspired rehashings of the unique zombies from the Left 4 Dead franchise. Like, one of them's just a new hunter, there's a new boomer, there's a couple different iterations of the tank idea. Plus, I couldn't tell some of the smaller ones apart, like there's the new hunter and the one that shoots webs at you. I couldn't tell you what they looked like, and I basically never saw them until I was getting hit by them. Part of the fun of Left 4 Dead is just seeing those special zombies, and some of them pop out without you expecting it, like getting hit by the smoker or the hunter pouncing on you, but sometimes you just see them lurking around and you know that you have to prioritize them or you're going to lose track of them and it's going to come back to bite you. Besides the visuals, there's just a lot of other things that I feel this game kind of failed in. The player characters were really boring and had kind of stupid dialogue that would fit into any other modern shooter. The whole idea of cleaners isn't something I really like. I think it's just a lot simpler to say survivors. It has some benefits from being a modern FPS, like you can aim down your sights and the movement has some really smooth little touches, but it also brings a lot of crap, like the new currency system and the cards. It's just unnecessary and convoluted. It feels like they're trying to add a little bit of roguelikiness to it, but you just don't need it. That's the problem with so many of these things, is they keep adding layers on top of something that is so simple and so fun, like Left 4 Dead. Like in Left 4 Dead, sure, you encounter different zombies at different points, but for the most part, it's not a super unique run every single time. You're still getting the same health packs and guns and checkpoints, but it doesn't matter because the game is just fun and challenging. And fun challenging, not like they failed the balancing like in Back 4 Blood. My friend and I tried to play through twice, but we never got all the way to the end. It just seemed like there was too many zombies, and on the second run people dropped out. The friendly AI is garbage. I don't know how they got that so wrong. They had it right in Left 4 Dead 2. The friendly CPUs just completely ignore you. It feels like they're not shooting anything. it's just so broken. I don't know how they got that so wrong. It was just not very fun and a pretty forgettable experience overall. Like, I'm glad I didn't pay any money to do this. I'm sure playing with friends you could get some entertainment out of it, but it just lacks so much of the heart and the creativity of the original Left 4 Dead games, again, especially Left 4 Dead 2. And unless they really revamp things and keep microtransactions as far away as possible, I can't see me picking up this game in the future. I would give it like a 4 out of 10 in its current state. And finally, I'm gonna wrap things up talking about the new Disney Pixar movie, Soul. If you've seen some of my videos like my Disney Plus reviews, you'll know that I really don't have a high bar when it comes to recent Disney and Pixar movies. A lot of them have just done nothing for me, felt like they were very forced and cliched, and I just haven't really been enjoying anything they've been putting out to any great extent. But I gotta say, with Soul, I was really pleasantly surprised. The first thing that really stuck out to me watching through this was just how weird it was. I was happy that they were willing to take a chance on some riskier, just weirder ideas both in theme and aesthetics. There's a lot of focus on death and what happens before life, and they were building kind of their own unique rules and mechanics out of this idea, as well as the general aesthetics of The Great Before, with the weird line arty people and the shift in score, which was great. I was really caught off guard by how good some of the synthy electronic elements were. It does create some of its own problems, which I'll go into, but some of the rules that it's set up in terms of how the souls work and how they kind of fade in and out of being attached to Earth, it was all just really interesting to me. I think my favorite aspects were how close the concept of being in the zone is to losing your soul. Like, it just makes a lot of sense, especially as somebody who could very easily understand that in getting lost in your work. Even if it's something you enjoy, it can very easily turn into just like something, for lack of a better word, soulless. For me, that clicked really well, and it was really easy for me to see that, because it does feel like that. It is kind of a dangerous line between putting all of your heart and your effort into something and just spending so much time on it, and then kind of like forgetting your passion for it but still doing it anyway because you think that that is what you love. I thought that that was just like a great concept and a great way to illustrate that. Like I said, some of the rules do lead to weird questions, like how they were able to get down to Earth without their passes. Maybe you only need the passes going through the main hole, like they don't know about the weird backdoor hippie way. But then like they kicked the cat's soul out of its body and it was just heading to death. But then when the cat became available again, I guess the cat's soul came back, unless that's just like a soulless Hellcat. There was a couple weird moments like that that kind of forgot about its own rules for the sake of the story, but it didn't bother me that much. Oh yeah, I realized I haven't talked about the story whatsoever. Basically, this guy Joe Gardner, played by Jamie Foxx, who I think does a fantastic job, is a jazz teacher with ambitions of being this, great jazz player. And through a former student, he gets this big opportunity at like the biggest club in the city, then falls in a manhole and nearly dies, splitting his soul from his body. But instead of just accepting his death, he is able to escape with the help of an unattached soul called 22, I think that was the name. And the story basically just has a lot of weird body shenanigans and trying to get him back to his body while giving 22 a feeling of purpose for actually going to live, something that 22 has had no interest in. Then there's the usual Fallout drama, another cliche that I'm mostly willing to forgive, and eventually leads to Joe's realization that just because he got to play this big show doesn't mean that he's fulfilled in life, because all he's focused on is trying to get these big breaks and his music and things like that. He hasn't savored any of the other good things about life, like talking to people. You really get that in the barbershop scene, which I thought was great. I was definitely worried going in and not knowing much about it that they were going to really hide all of the blackness of the character and the general environment. I thought they were going to stay as souls for most of the time, so you wouldn't really get that across for racist China or whatever. But I definitely don't think they did it as poorly as I was expecting them to. You get a decent amount of time with either Joe in his body or Joe in the cat and 22 in his body, so you're still seeing him at least. I don't know how good it was in actuality. I surely don't have the experience or the expertise to talk about that, but I think it was better than it could have been. And there's a couple moments that stuck out to me as unfunny or didn't really fit, but for the most part I thought it was good. Just some jokes that didn't land. It has a really quick humor about it, which most of the time works, but then there's certain times, like the constant callbacks to all the former mentors that 22 had started to get a little tedious as time went on, started to feel a little too Family Guy. But overall I thought it was a really good movie with a great message, and I was just happy that it seems like it took it a step further than it had to in terms of the visual aesthetics, the score, and the message itself. Like, they could have just made it your typical don't sell your soul for a corporate job, go and live your dreams type of thing. But there's always a weird conflict like that, because some of those jobs do have to get done even though they suck, and some people do just like working with numbers and figuring out those kind of problems, so maybe they are passionate about that. There's just so many weird ways that you can fall flat with that story of just like, go be a crazy artist, live your dreams, go sing in Rent. But this takes it a step further and doesn't really question that. It's more of just, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're still appreciating life. Don't get stuck in the grind of it, whether it's something you enjoy, something you don't. Find things to enjoy. Don't lose your passion for it. And don't make your career your one defining thing. Don't think of it as your purpose, which is definitely something I feel a lot of people need to hear, and it hit me pretty good too. I think in taking it that one step further, it was able to access a really large crowd, because it's just a thing that a lot of people, I think, should consider when they're thinking about what they're doing with their lives. I know for me, and probably a lot of other people making videos or content creators, whatever, I feel like the idea of losing yourself in something you enjoy and turning it into a slog, turning it into a very tedious thing, is definitely something that so many people struggle with. So the message of this movie being, don't lose yourself in what you think your purpose is. Make sure you enjoy life, do things that you enjoy and strive to be good at them, but don't make it all that you are as a person on earth. That's not what your time here is about. I think making that the message was a really nice thing. I really enjoyed it. I'd give it a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10. Let's say for now I'll give it an 8, because there's a lot of elements I really do commend about the movie. The visual aesthetics, the sound, the messages, the kind of mechanics of the universe they set up, they're all really good. So I would give it an 8 for now. But maybe over time it'll be a little less impactful. We'll see. So that's basically it. A couple side notes. I've also been playing Pikmin 3 Deluxe. I don't have a lot of history with the Pikmin franchise. I only played them for the first time in college, but I do really enjoy all of the games. 3 is probably my favorite, but it's very, very close with 1. They're just two very different games. And I've been enjoying Pikmin 3 Deluxe a lot. I just haven't had enough of a chance to play it to really talk about it in depth in this video. But I'm enjoying it a lot. It's a very easy game where you can go back and play it again right away, because you start to realize, oh, I can do this quicker, I should go here and then do this. And the more I play it and the more me and my friends talk about it, I think I might do a video on what I'd like to see out of Pikmin 4. There's a lot of ideas that I've seen floating around from other people on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, that I just feel like kind of slightly miss the purpose of Pikmin. To me, they're less RTS games and almost more of like a puzzle, and just the way you need to navigate these environments and split up your Pikmin, the captains. So I might do a video on Pikmin 4 and discuss how they can keep the actual core of the franchise intact while making it bigger and just new and lots of fun. I've also played a little bit of the demo for Monster Hunter Rise. I picked up Generations sometime late last year and started to have a ton of fun with that, despite some of the confusing RPG elements, and I am definitely going to be picking up Monster Hunter Rise. It changes a lot of the elements for the better, like making the world completely seamless. The dogs are fantastic, even though it cuts some of the things that I got used to in Monster Hunter Generations. Like, I was using the Valor build, which had a lot of ways that you could kind of dodge and sheath at the right time to get a bonus, and that stuff was fun. but they got rid of it. I think it did streamline it and make it simpler. So either way, I'm definitely looking forward to that game now. And I also just watched the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, which I'm really enjoying so far. I can't wait to keep watching it. I'm very curious about what's going on and how it's going to impact the greater MCU. I think as a first show, kind of the first Disney Plus show that they've been doing, it's definitely a great start. You know, obviously some of the taglines like "this is the most craziest thing that's ever been done" is a bit of an exaggeration, but I do think that this is a great direction for the MCU to take and get a little more creative with things. I'll discuss it more when the series has ended, but I do really enjoy it so far and I have high hopes for it. And that does it for January 2021. So let me know what you think about any of the things that I discussed, and let me know what you think about this format too. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure this one out. It's a completely new show. I'm seeing if this is what I want to do going forward, or if I do want to do 4 minutes 4 or some other type of review format. So let me know what you think. If there's something you'd like me to do with this series differently, let me know. Be sure to like and subscribe. Go follow me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm finally using that a little bit now. And as always, thanks for watching.